illegal mining, assuring that perpetrators will be brought to justice. Our operations have been lawful and technically sound. Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited. Strategic Mobilization Ghana Limited, SML, has affirmed that its operations were lawful and technically sound, following calls by the Office of the Special Prosecutor in Ghana to terminate its contracts. In a formal statement, SML said it had fully cooperated with all lawful investigations and maintained it delivered measurable value under its agreement with the Ghana Revenue Authority, citing its risk and reward contractual model. The company rejected allegations of wrongdoing connected to its revenue assurance contracts, arguing the payments were made only after independent verification and that its services were supervised by the GRA. All right, it's exactly 33 minutes gone past the hour of 9, and it is the very 8th day of November 2025 in the year of our Lord. And on Focus, your flagship show on Z101.9, your lifestyle, leisure, and business platform. This morning, we are looking at a progressive nation, what to do and what not to do. It's been 68 years of Ghana. Well, the Republican status only started in 1960, and so you'll do a subtraction of about another 2 or 3 years. But on and on we are going as a nation. How do we feel about our dear nation, Ghana? Ghana National College would have their emblem as Pro Patria, for our fatherland. Others will say for our motherland. Whichever way we take it, we're looking at how to put our dear nation, Ghana, back on track for a progressive trajectory. And this morning, as I've already indicated, I've got 2 professors. One who's been around for a while. He'll dispute that he's old. Of course, he's evergreen and so would always make things fresh for you in listening to him. And today, he's got his very fairly younger compatriot, another professor, in the studio to speak to the matters. But first, my own daddy, Professor Stephen Adai, one of Ghana's foremost leadership and governance experts. Papa Akwaba.
Thank you.
How are you doing today?
By His grace, I'm doing well.
You look pretty fresh this morning, I must confess. And in your blue local fabric shirt, you're looking wonderful. And I heard you talking to the children earlier, and everybody was amazed about how you're doing. You want to tell us what the trick is?
Well, sometimes you may take a credit where you don't have to, because some people are living more sanely than me and yet they die early. But generally, living good life, had got faith in God, had a good family life, generally, had a good career. You can only thank God for so far.
Well, thanking God for so far is what Professor Stephen Adai says in responding to the greetings this morning before getting on to the discussion. But as I've already indicated, we've got a second professor in the house with quite some publications to his credit. I didn't talk about publications when it comes to Professor Steve Adai because, you know, it will be uncountable. But Professor Enoch Entry is in the house this morning, and he carries just 2 of his publications, Wisdom and Leadership, the principles and practical keys of passing the torch. And you want that? You will see him, and at the right places you can get exactly some of these copies, just so you can get back in building wisdom and leadership. The very second book this morning that we have in the studio is about entrepreneurship in Africa, using global knowledge and whatever have you. You want to grab a copy of this book and make sure that you've satisfied yourself with the right things. Professor Enoch Opoku Entry, welcome.
Thank you, Nana. It's always a pleasure to be here and to sit along Professor Adai, the emeritus professor. I watch him a lot. I learn a lot from him. I've had secret mentors, and he's one of them.
Secret mentors, and this morning, the moment you entered the studio, he said, Anopedia, wa found. By the way, how have you been, Prof?
I've been well. They have Campus for Christ program, some gentlemen from UK, some pastors. So I've been helping them. We met some students at Legon yesterday, and from here I'll go to Nifan Secondary School to meet the senior high school. Sometimes I speak and we'll have about 1,500 of these students baptizing. And I'm not a pastor, I'm not a reverend, but just sharing wisdom and knowledge with them. And when we catch them young like that and tell them about life and how they can maneuver their way with moral uprightness, it will help this country a lot.
Do you want to tell listeners this morning that this is one of the things to do in getting a progressive nation back on track?
Yes, yes. If you look at the media, both the print, social media, and the insults and the language that are going on, you ask about the orientation of our education.
Prof, you mean you had insults on this network, Z101.9 FM?
Never here, but if you listen to our social media, and even look at the heroes that we have in this country, if you look at the celebrities, they are all coming from the streets. How many people know Professor Adai or, women who are doing well. 2 years ago, I was at a funeral with Abba, the VC at Legon.
You mean the Vice
Ghana.
Chancellor of the University of Ghana?
I didn't know we are all from the same Kufori Asukore. So we just met at a funeral. They sat me with her, and then we started talking and got to know that we are all from the same place. The celebrities here are not academics. They are not writers. They are not publishers. They are not professors. It's some music people. It's some movie people. And I'm thinking, why did we go that tangent? Because anywhere that you go, if you go to America, you have a lot of celebrities who are academics, a lot of celebrities who are medical doctors.
Prof, equally in America, you've got some actors, some musicians, some of the people that you call street guys also are celebrities.
They are, but there's a balance. Here we don't have that kind of balance.
Okay.
So if you look at, my mother is a celebrity. She single-handedly raised 5 kids. Wow. And our last boy is at Bank of Ghana with masters from GIMPA in project management. So if you look at a woman who never had a meaningful job, raising 5 children, some professors, some chartered accountants, these are celebrities. But we see celebrating in different ways. So moral bankruptcy is one of the biggest challenges. And because these children from the infancy, they don't have the mentors who really mentor them to pick the right moral path. So we'll talk about
101.9 FM.
I know we'll be talking about that because that's about another controversial statement being made, and it's going to be critiqued into detail. Moral bankruptcy is what he calls it, Professor Enoch Opoku Entry. And he says that, we need to have a balance of some kind of knowledge, training, academics to be able to carry this nation the way we should go. And this morning, we have 2 celebrities, if you don't mind, because I think that the men and gentlemen we have in the studio qualify for the celebrity status. Exactly 40 minutes gone past the hour of 9. It's Z 101.9 and your lifestyle, leisure, and business platform. You want to follow us on WhatsApp 0544321019. Send your comments and we would read it on air 0303956641. On Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter, you can reach us at ZFMGH. On TikTok, yes, TikTok, I got it right this time. And on YouTube, it's both Z Multimedia. And on the website is www.zmultimedia.com. 40 minutes gone past the hour of 9. And now back to the discussions, the starting point. And I'll start with you, Professor Stephen Adai, my papa. Do you want to share with us what a progressive national mindset is and how, as a nation, as a people, as a collective, we can cultivate this progressive national mindset?
Well, I've had opportunity to live on other continents other than Africa and several countries in Africa. Let me start with the African one. For example, in South Africa, they had what they call the rainbow country. In other words, their mindset is how do you bring the about 11 great ethnic groups together, recognize each other, and forge a united South Africa. There's a mindset. I was the head of the UN system at the time of transition under Mandela. And I could see, first of all, they had the iconic Mandela, but they were also having some sort of mindset that we can make it. Also, before then, I was 6.5 years with the UNDP headquarters in New York. And one of the things I found was that what they called the American dream. Even when you took an ordinary, to say, street guy in America, he had a hope that one day he will make it. And that mindset, based upon productivity, based upon what they will accomplish, entrepreneurship, and the rest. In Britain, where I also lived, studied there, and also worked with the Commonwealth Secretariat, they were a bit more conservative. But still, even around their currency, pound, they were so proud. The queen, now the king, was a symbol of unity. There were things that brought them together, and they were forward-looking. That is, if it were at the individual level, they had growth mindset, and at a nation level, they had something to look forward to. When I was a younger person, and I've lived throughout Ghana history. I was born in 1948, which was the year of really the break-even year for Ghana, whereby the die was cast. I wasn't, of course, old enough to see it.
Actually, the same year that Ghana National College was born.
And also UGCC and the leaders went for the march, and their leaders were soon arrested and the rest. I was there. I remember even the cap we were given on the day of independence when we marched, singing in my village. You had a song, our flag, red, gold, and green, and then we became republic. And there was a sort of expectation, a brave new world, even though I think that it's unfortunate that Nkrumah's popular saying has become well known but wrong. It says that seek first the political kingdom, and everything will be added to you. Economic development will only start at the political kingdom, and of course we know the mess we are. But there was a certain mindset that we had when we became independent. We had come of age. We were looking forward to a bright new future. In fact, during those days when we grew up a little bit, when you were in Ghana, excuse me to say, some Nigerians, when they tried to identify themselves as Ghanaians, it was so bright. And I think that we have lost that. So much so that even the expectations of the individual just to get rich quickly, no matter how, it's I, me, and myself type of world. There isn't a national objective. That's where we want to go. When I was chairman of National Development Planning Commission, my predecessors had done a good work, a volume of about 450 or so pages of, and I said, look, no, let us reduce it to a short 30-page at Ghana at 100. What the country that we want to be, so that it can become a mobilizing tool for Ghanaians. And then you can filter it down even to the primary school level, people looking up to it. In fact, we didn't have even a chance to discuss it with the government of the day because they were not interested in it. So I think that one of the first things we need, and it's a leadership task, we'll come back to that one, is to really have where we want to go. A picture, a vision is a picture of an ideal future state. And then around which we will then ask the questions, what are the values that will take us there? The type of education that will take us there. I mean, when I hear about, say, discussions about primary school, what language they should use, whether hair should be short or long, they all have their role, but at the end of it, what is the mindset? It's what the psychologists will call it growth mindset at the individual level, at the country level. And I think that as to how we get it, we will go into details. But at this moment, we have no rallying point as to the future we want and how we will get there and the models that will take us there. Because the young people that are looking for models as to what will take us there. And it's one of the challenges that we all face, and I hope if other people are listening, our president.
Z 101.9 FM.
Single Sibisa, where we are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know we will. No, we must create a deliberate future.
Deliberate.
We must be intentional about it.
Intentionality.
And it must filter through our process of bringing up children at home and at school.
And the basic values that will drive these. So says the good old professor. And he's giving very, very, very poignant points over here. He's giving the experiences of the South African people. He's gone through the United States of America, the Great Britain and all that, and indeed came back to the Republic of Ghana from the 1948s, at least at the beginning in the 1957s, right in through 1960. There was a certain identity, there was a certain mindset that was cut for us. But unfortunately, at a certain point, we may have lost it. We'll come back to what may have caused this loss, what may have accounted for it, and probably how we can reset. But before we continue, Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi is here, and I'll put the same question. What is it that the people of Ghana ought to do to get us back on a national mindset?
Thank you very much, Nana, and once again, greetings to our listeners everywhere in the world. From my own upbringing, I was born in 1975, so 50. I was 50 in July 4th. And knowing where I was born, in a very obscure place, Abuabo number 4, 7 kilometers away from Domahinkro, where my father was a head teacher. Post A, post middle is what he had, and he was teaching there. We had no electricity, so I learned with the moon and then the candle lights, the lantern at that time. But I worked with joy. I remember the first time I had my Christmas dress was doing a corn farm, a maize farm, and then giving the money to my father. He had me some red and white strips of trousers. You know, it was tight on the tie and then loose on the down there.
Called bell bottom.
Yes, bell bottom. And then
And not the...
I had a rubber shoe called One Taki Polo at that time.
One Taki Polo, absolutely.
And a shirt. And I remember walking the streets of that village the whole day, Christmas, knowing that there's dignity in work. I have worked hard to earn this dress that I was wearing. But in all my travels, you know, I taught at 5 different universities as head of department in U.S. for 21 years. And I decided to come back home. But I'm telling you that for 3 years that I've been constantly home, what I've seen, people and life have taught me more than all the books have taught me in my travels. People here, there's a lot of negative energy here. There's a lot of evilness. There's a lot of greed. There's a lot of ungratefulness. People even pray as if God owns them. You know, they command God. And the way we do things, I sit down and ask myself, you know, in all the countries that have advanced, you will see that God first. Americans will say, in God we trust. Anywhere you travel, you will see that God runs through everything that they do. And I'm talking about genuine people who knows God and are doing the will of God. Remember when that guy had been in Bethesda for 38 years and Jesus asked him, do you want to be healed? People were asking that the man has been there for 38 years. So why do you ask him that question? Do you want to be healed? Well, it's not everybody who is sick who want to be healed. Some people are feigning sickness on the street, begging for money. I'm told some have built a house from it. So that person don't want to be healed. There are a lot of things that goes on in our lives. And if God is not first, there's nothing that will do that will work. Because with all the knowledge that we've had in this world, 2 things we've not been able to do. You cannot predict tomorrow with any substantial accuracy. And then we've not been able to make blood. We still need blood donations. So you can tell the limit of our knowledge and then God's knowledge. The other thing is family. How do we build a family? Because your first teachers are your parents. Now, I had a student in a small town called Eau Claire in the state of Wisconsin who had been in the army for 30 years. And he came to me at my office one day and said, Prof. E, I've never seen a black man in America who is so respected by white people like you. And, you know, I had a lot of I have more white friends than black friends. And most of the time they would tell me, you know, you are not black. And I told them that, yes, I'm black. They said, no, you are not. Because in most of them mind, they have 3 people in the world. They have whites, honorary whites, and a bunch of black entities. So they will explain to you why they call it that way. If you are a black person who is well educated and you are calm and you are poised, you are not feisty, and you are always learning, you are honorary white. And that is why they will allow you to teach their kids. Especially not in the cities, but I'm talking about the state of Wisconsin where the minority are Chinese monk. You don't see blacks there. And I was the only black professor in the 2 universities that I taught there. So family, the way you model your family. And he taught me one thing. A student, he was older than me, but he taught me one thing. He said, every weekend, call your wife and your children, pray together, sing together, and let them mention the challenges they've gone throughout the week. And you will see. And when I started it, my children would tell me, somebody disrespected me, this one would say this, that you did this last week that I didn't like. And now it has bonded us together because that culture, because the father of modern day management, Peter Drucker, says that culture is strategy for breakfast. It doesn't matter the strategy that you have. If the culture is not right, you will never have any breakthrough. And that also filters into our governance, where we have a lot of strategies. We have a lot of strategic management. We have a lot of policies. But then it is not built on trust. So if you don't have people you can trust to work with, that is a problem. The other thing that Prof talked about is governance and leadership. In governance, we're looking for picking the right people at the right place to do the right things for the right reasons so that the right results could be achieved. And we don't have it. Then vision is also one of the issues. Our leaders are thinking about the next elections, but not the next generation. If you go to Europe or if you go to America, you will see as a 20 and then you see as a 25. And you ask yourself, where is as a 21, 22, 23? Well, they have demarcated the land and they know in future development there will be as a 21, 22, and 23. That is why you have 20 and 25. Future development is already planned there. Look at the way we have planned our lands in Accra and other places. We've not planned any, Prof.
Because I wanted to know so that I could...
There's no planning. And if you go to any country, the way their roads is determines the way they think.
I will be getting the principal or the chief director of the Ministry of Roads and National Planning, whatever it is.
That would be great.
And then we'll see whether we have planned or we have not planned.
We have no plan.
But Prof, before we continue, I had Prof Adai talk about the 1948 and probably before 1948 up to 1957, right up to 1960, the mindset of the Ghanaian at the time. You talked about the individual level, the family level, and then the national level at the governmental, status and stuff like that. But you are now talking about evil thinkers. You're talking about people who are greedy, people filled with avarice. Between 1960 and 1975 or 1980 or 85 up to 2000, why this contrast in here?
Well, you wouldn't say, I did my dissertation on political leadership and political followership in Africa, and I talked to a lot of members of parliament and delegates who corrupt the other. And I found my definition of corruption from a guy called Inye, and he said it is using political influence for private gain.
Do you know that for a similar statement, your good old father sitting by you almost got into some kind of a challenge with the...
Yes, I know. I know all the challenges that he's going through.
Know about
I followed him for a long time.
And yet you're still sitting in front of me this morning and you're making a similar statement.
When you are a leadership and governance expert, he was. And I'm also one of them.
Okay.
Anywhere that I go.
I'll get another member of parliament, to debate you on this one as well.
The challenge is that from independence, from the 1940s and then independence, Nkrumah was challenged for the same thing, corruption, right? Rawlings came, corruption. Free Friend Ekutokas, corruption. So I was getting into there. But corruption is becoming worse these days. So you ask yourself, are we fighting corruption or we are just doing lip services about that?
And you will stop right there. And I'll go back to Prof. Just before we take our next break, we've got just about 2 more minutes. But Prof, I just want to do this compare and contrast. I remember in my days in school when they give you, the exercise, they would say compare and contrast. So you looked at the 1940s and the 50s, and then you thought that there was a certain sense of national thinking and belongingness even from the individual, the family, right up to the national level. But today, Prof seems, Enoch seems to be painting a different picture of greed, avarice. He's now talking about corruption, which almost landed you in some kind of trouble a few years back and all that. Where is this contrast actually coming from?
I always marvel at Nkrumah because he was such a wonderful leader in the 50s up to 1962. But believe me, most of the things which have blossomed to today had their genesis towards the end of Nkrumah. For example, this started with the party taking about 10% from projects to fund the party. As soon as you give that leeway, people say, oh, Nkrumah was not corrupt. Nkrumah personally had no need to steal money. Why? Because he believed that he's going to be a president for life. Ghana was his property. But as soon as he allowed that, immediately his people started being corrupt. He tried to catch one or two people to prosecute them. Again, soon after independence, there was a very serious polarization of our society between the UP, Busia, Dombo tradition and the CPP. And as a leader, he made no effort at reconciliation. My own god uncle, KB Asante, for example, when J.B. Dankwa was in prison, he says, Nkrumah, he tells me, he told Nkrumah he was close to him. Get him out. Then maybe make him even Ghana ambassador to America or somewhere else. He died in prison. So we got polarized. Now, when you get the society polarized like that, then there's the tendency of each trying to undo each other, even their good things. And in order to do so, during their time, they want to amass wealth to get the power to do so. So we can go again, education. We inherited a very church-based driven education. If you talked about education, it was a Catholic school, it was a Methodist school, it was a Presbyterian school, and moral education was very, very high. I must give a credit, also civic education was high. Unfortunately, we nationalized about 62 these schools, and the moral education got more or less reduced over and over. And in the time, at this moment, there's practically no moral education going on. So in terms of genesis, this is where we started getting it wrong. And then, of course, we'll come back and grow. We have built upon it, and today, what was incipient is now the norm, which is
Z 101.9 FM.
101.9 FM is what you are listening to, and you do not want to touch your dial because this is where progressive, nationalistic, patriotic discussions take place. And so you want to stick and stay with us. This is your lifestyle, leisure, and business platform. It's exactly 1 minute past the hour of 10, and this is Focus. And today we're looking at what to do and what not to do in building a progressive nation. Two professors in the studio. One who lived his life in the early years of the 40s and the 50s and 60s and still lives on. Very, very young and still lived. And then the other who must have started around the middle belt of the 70s into the 80s. He's gone out, he's come back. 75.
When I was already teaching in the University of Ghana.
Interesting. Interesting. So I said it, it is the old and the new, the old and the young, but, blending so well in here. Prof talks about where the system, the leadership began to open the floodgates. Let's look at how we can support our small group which is ruling Really? The pipes were then opened. Did we have to do any reconciliation whatsoever? Of course. If we all believed in the same agenda and at a certain point got a little divided, we probably should have come back together. Whether it was properly done or not, only God will tell, and time will also bring us back to what the reality is. And then he talks about education. Education for me is so key. Morality may have been lost. Well, I guess we'll be coming back, to take it straight from there. But you want to follow us on WhatsApp 0544 321 019 or 030 395 6641. If you are following us on the socials, if it's Instagram, it's Facebook, or it is Twitter or X, it's ZFMGH. And on TikTok and YouTube, Z Multimedia. You want to follow us on our website, www.zmultimedia.com. And this is Focus. We're taking a short break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Z 101.9 FM.
It's your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Hey, yo, that's it. Actually, a building contractor on Friday.
Z 101.9 FM.
Well, I've just been told that my studio clock is minus 60 seconds. So says Pell, my producer. I never knew this, but in Z 101.9 FM, you have a studio clock that will do 60 seconds late. And so the time right now is 6 minutes past the hour of 10. Good people out there, we're on Focus. This is 101.9 FM. We've been looking at getting Ghana on the right trajectory, what to do and what not to do. Starting, we have looked at where we were yesterday. and where we are today. But between yesterday and today, how did we get here? And Prof, I'll probably stay on with you just a little longer in trying to trace that trajectory from where we started, where you lined up on the streets of Shemwasi. I'm not too sure whether that's where exactly you were, with your red, gold, green flag, with all the inspiration, with all the motivation, with all the expectations. But today, your son Enoch says it's about greed, avarice. Let's try to trace this trajectory and see how leadership has brought us right from the beginning to where we stand today.
Let me probably go through quickly the polarization.
Okay.
When in Nkrumah, this is one party state.
After polarization, you'll come back to reconciliation,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
But the soldiers took over, but immediately they aligned with the opposition. Okay. And basically, it was getting Busia back to power. And of course, the PP came to power, and the CPP was disbanded by the soldiers. It was never allowed. They were almost non-persona non grata in their own country. And of course, the soldiers overthrew Busia, not on a political basis, as the Champon said, because they thought that some of their benefits were being undermined. And they felt that it had Nkrumahs behind it.
So, Prof, probably just before you continue, you mentioned, losing the opportunity to build reconciliation by the very first president.
Yes.
Now, you talk about the military takeover, and then another opportunity to put us back together. You're saying that the CPP had to be disbanded. And so this was virtually like polarization number 2.
Yes, rather turning the coin against them.
Okay.
The soldiers were, of course, some people thought that Champon was a Nkrumahist, but I think that the soldiers came with their own agenda, and that is where really corruption, which was incipient on the latter years of a Champon, became the norm. I mean, everybody knew that they had been corrupted. They were sexually immoral. Golf was called Fantubaji golf. In other words, so in addition to the corruption, also immorality was patronized. Again, with the influence of the churches in the schools and the civic education going down and down.
So we got polarization,
yes, and now
we got corruption,
and then moral
deterioration also sparked in.
Rawlings came to correct what they thought the soldiers, the senior soldiers, had done, but they took a very brutal way and brought in a lot of violence, some fear, and it seems to have gotten people to come, but really they were not instituting systems and principles, but by virtue of force. When they turned in 1983 to the IMF World Bank because the economy was in a mess, things slowed down until, of course, and we saw improvement in the economic trajectories until 1992, when the PNDC metamorphosed into the NDC by dropping the P. But at that point, again, they came to identify now with the Nkrumahs having destroyed the Nkrumahs. They came to also form another socialist club against the Busia Dombo tradition.
So virtually a Sankofa kind of situation.
Yes. And the ones who lost were the actual CPPs because they thought they would, but NDC became a part of its own, charted a part of its own, and totally in opposition to the NPP. And they believed that they would, on the democratic system, I remember Her Excellency, Mrs. Rawlings, saying that we are going to hand over to whom? And that we are going to be in power for 40 years. Of course, they handed over to Kufuor now, so he know whom he handed over to, and they were not in power. But this polarization, but meanwhile, they saw money as a tool. So each one coming was corruption. So to acquire as much wealth at the MP level, at the ministerial level, in order to retain power. And that has been with us and seems to be growing worse over the years. I mean, through, I think that there was some sanity briefly on the Tamils. Then they went haywire again on the Roaring Up #1. Kufuor came, we saw some, again, when there's a changeover, that's why some of us have not talked for some time, because when the Kufuor came, everybody's hopes were revived in the first 3 years, the first term, and they got bankers. And if half of what is being alleged is true, that is bad enough. So I think that the polarization, the immorality, and other things, and in all these things, what has been lost is national mindset, not NPP mindset, NDC mindset, who is going to win the next election, but where will Ghana move to in the next generation has been lost.
And I guess that is what answers we will be looking for on Focus. Today is the 8th of November 2025 in the year of our Lord. What to do, what not to do. Just before we get back to the solutions and therefore beginning to pick up what the values are, what it is that we can do, let's look at leadership, let's look at education, let's look at policies and stuff like that. Prof. Enoch entry. Now, here is what Grandpa has said, if we will so call him on the platform this morning, that there has been a certain trajectory starting from polarization. We got the opportunity to reconcile, but never actually paid any special attention to it. Then, of course, corruption at a certain point, leapt and crept into the system. And then, of course, morality became degenerated and we began losing it. Then came the time where a certain brutish system came in. Today, we're being told that monetization seems to be taking, a place of the moral fiber of this station. What is your assessment of this chronological events that have taken place over the period?
Thank you once again. I think the good part of the olden days was religious and moral education. The child belonged to the community, so you can whip any child who was misbehaving in the community because that child was our child, not your own child. These days, you dare not try these things. So our orientation in education has been wrong. Then you talk about the expectations of the people that has corrupted our leaders. The community expects you, when you get into government, to buy a car, to build houses, to give them money anytime there's a wedding, there's a funeral. Every time there's money, they need you to come. And they don't care where you get your money from. I remember many years ago, I went to visit at Ridge. Niamadonko was a minister of health. And we come from the same Kufuor Asokore. So he's an uncle. And I went to visit him early, around 4 a.m. And I saw almost 50 people already there sitting at the benches. This one, I'm going to learn how to be a mechanic. I need tools. I'm going to learn how to sew. I need the machine. I'm traveling. I need air tickets. Everybody has a demand.
Or you didn't have the experience of my second wife just gave birth and
exactly.
I need some money to go take care of that.
A friend of mine who is even a member of parliament now, somebody came and said that she's a student, she's pregnant, and she needs money to go and abort the baby. So you can see the expectations of the people that has corrupted them.
Leadership.
Yes.
That is the lot.
This is the expectation
of
of the people. Your people expect this from you. That means they don't expect clear leadership. Because in the advanced world, I was about to contest for mayor in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, let me tell you what happened. The reason why I did not contest was the LGBTQ issue. And one day I'll talk about that. But the Democratic Party have a Center for Progressive Leadership. They picked 2 leaders from each state. So 100 of us, we met at Cleveland for 6 months to be trained. Now, throughout the training process, they teach you about the philosophy of the party, leadership, humility, how to listen to the people, how to accept dissenting views. So you can see that all of these are missing from our inception. So 68 years, once we got independence, those who had dissenting views, we talk about Dankwa, who, was in jail. But anybody who dissented to the views of the leaders at that time, mostly in Africa, found themselves in jail. Some were beaten up. Some had to fly away to other countries. So we kill dissenting views. But if we are all thinking the same, then nobody is thinking. And that has been our problem, our bane of a problem till now. That when somebody, as Prof was saying, is thinking the nationalistic way, and you are in the middle way, Oviedo says that the best way is the middle way. When you are talking about the middle way, people have a problem with you. They want you to talk NDC or MPP. So those of us who talk the middle way, how about Ghana, you become an endangered species. People don't like you.
But Prof, is it not said that you either drink deep or taste not? So you either standing at the far west or you standing at the far east?
I stand here. I remember that Obama asked me, he said, you have a problem. You have one foot in Africa and one foot in America. You have to choose one. And I chose Ghana. But coming to Ghana, if I tell you what I've gone through and the kind of wickedness and the kind of corruption and the kind of greediness that I've seen, I said that before my father passed away, he called me. He said, Kwame, I know you. These people that you think you can do to help, you don't know them very well. This is the path they've chosen to go. See, so the person you are going to meet at the ministry is already corrupted. And if you come there and you don't want to go their tangent, they will find a way to kick you out. And they will come and tell you, oh, Shaweye, this person, be careful of this person. But you should rather be careful of them. Because those who come to them and tell you about others, they are the worst. So we have a situation here that those who are doing the right thing are not doing well in society. They are rather poor.
Is it not just because you are looking at it from
because the
your
society have made it that way?
Lens.
When you talk about American dream, you work diligently hard, you will make it.
Okay.
Here, people who are working diligently hard, they are not making it. It is those, the cantankerous people, the feisty people, the corrupt people that are putting on mansions. Do you know how much it costs to put on about a 3-bedroom house? But look at how houses and fuel stations are springing up every day. Where is the money coming from? What is the average salary of the Ghanaians? So we have to be asking a lot of questions, moral questions, and we are not asking questions. We should go back to when we were kids and we're asking Dad, why this? Mom, why this? And sometimes they will tell us to shut up. But we kept on asking questions because it is important to ask more questions than to find more answers. Unfortunately, we have ceased in asking questions. Do you know that as I speak with you that AI is going to go away and we have XR technology that is coming? And the XR technology comes with moral component. So if you are playing a music and there is a vulgar language, it blocks it. If you are playing an instrument and there's a bad key, it blocks it. If you talk about leisure and there's something wrong, then automatically that technology will block it because our generation is lacking morality. And that technology, XR technology, is what is coming. But I am going to end this way before Prof takes over. We have refused to listen to our own people. I just watched the Minister of Youth Development saying that 70% of the youth are saying that we are not listening to them. That's a problem. If you have children and you are not listening to their needs, because they don't have jobs. Jobs is what we should be providing for. When I was in the States, I had something that I called a $1 million cap. I'll bring universities in one city. So we had like leadership Wisconsin or leadership Chicago, where all the leaders of the city, so let's say I start leadership Accra, then I'll have Prof, I will have the professors, heads of departments, vice chancellors, the politicians, banks, all these media, we come together. And then once every Monday, we have after work service. We talk about leadership, how we can work together. That's what we do there. And then we had the $1 million cap where we bring all the universities together once a month. They will pitch ideas about software, this is what and one of my students have GEMF, JYMF, provides software for Microsoft. It is one of my ideas. What they do is that when they come together, the student will pitch ideas, music, software, this idea for startup business, and then the word of work, which is the financial, the banks and then the financial institution will say that we think we can sponsor this. And then academia will do the business plan and the marketing plan for them, and then boom, they start a business.
So 101.9 FM.
With the world of work industry, it's not like that. Even in America, senior high school, if your grades are good and you are 16 and you want to get a driver's license, your insurance on your parents is cheaper than the one who have bad grades. So you can see how they link education with industry. So it works like that. Here, it's not like that. We are separated. And you find a situation where the person go to school, get a first class, come to you at Z Multimedia and say that I want 5,000 a month with no experience. Thinking that you have the money sitting down for them to come and take it. Then you have their students in high school. My son, one day I was working at summer and I cried because my son was working at Subway. He was rolling the sandwiches and it was close to my house. So when I was taking a walk that, summer around 10 p.m., it was still, the sun was on. Then I saw that they had closed and he was mopping the floor. I stood there crying. Why is my son doing this? And when he saw me, he started shaking his head. So when he came home, he said, Dad, why were you crying? And I said, I didn't want to see my son mopping the floor. And he said, I need to work for my money. And I realized
101.9
the
FM.
work that they are teaching them. He said, I need to work for my money. So he wouldn't take money free from me, but I said, give me some work. Let me go wash your car. Let me go do this. Then you give them the money. That is the orientation they've given them. So whilst in high school you are working, universities are hiring them to clean the floor and everything. By the time you leave the school, you know customer service. You know how to handle people. Here it's not like that. See? So we need to blend education with industry. Why not send students to these, institutions, banks, financial institutions, insurance, and then they identify problems. And based on those problems, they will write their dissertation and research. Once they finish, they are prescribing solution to that organization, and the organization will hire them to come and implement it. Are we not having that kind of supply and demand?
Well, I can tell you that the same practices and processes are going on. I want to believe that the fundamental difference here is what mindset we're taking to it. And that's what we've been discussing on Z 101.9 FM. It's 23 minutes gone past the hour of 10. We're looking at a progressive nation, Adeshimang, Ghana. What to do and what not to do. We've been looking at the problems, tracing it right from the beginning to where we sit today. Are there any values at all that would come to build this nation for us? We have heard it all. The dignity of work. Not listening to the people. When are we going to listen? What is the way forward? In just 1 second, it's exactly 25 minutes gone past the hour of 10. Prof, I come to you straight. Now let's look at how to go forward. What is it that we need to do? You started by talking about the values. Prof. Enoch has also spoken about the same thing. The champion himself, seeing his little son mopping for some kind of reward, feels bad because he thinks that he doesn't belong there. The child says, Dad, I need to work for my daily bread. Well, very, very poignant question there. For those guys who work for Z Multimedia, who are beginning to ask for 5,000s, you need to start, reframing and refreshing your minds, because starting from tomorrow, we'll be talking about that. But Prof, the values that we've got to sit with.
I think that every nation has to do things. At a certain point, we must change. We cannot continue doing business as usual. But I've looked at the nations which have, at least in recent times, made it. I mean, there was a time, just at the turn of the 20th century, we called the Meiji civilization. Emperor Meiji and his technocrats decided that Japan must be modernized and move from their traditional way to a new level. Again, we have seen, you can almost identify in each country a leader who said that enough is enough and started charting, whether it is Mahathir Mohamad in Malaysia. In fact, I'm doing a study, and I found that Mahathir Mohamad actually, during his first term, spent 19 years and transformed Malaysia with good leadership. And Rawlings led Ghana for 19 years and left Ghana epic. You go to Singapore, you can, of course, the famous Lee Kuan Yew. If you go to China, today's China, you can trace everything. They are economic giant, though I have questions about their morality, the way they do business when they are not among themselves. They do right because other than that you'll be killed. But when their morality towards outsiders, you buy something, they can bring you a different thing altogether and get away with it. But then Champion, ZIAPONG, I was to say, look, unless we infuse efficient capitalist productive system into our system, maintaining our family structures, we are going nowhere. And in 17 years, he transformed billion people China put it on a trajectory. So I think that we must first at the leadership level. And if anybody is listening, Mahama, you are the president today. You can talk about everybody in the past, Akufo-Addo, but we need a leader who will not only put Ghana first, but model the type of Ghanaian that we want to be. It is very, very, very important. And I believe that one person makes a difference.
Z 101.9 FM.
And then there's a transformation. So that's at that level is very, very, very important. I'll talk about three. There are other areas about industry. I'm not going to go there. The next is at the family level. When we talk about sometimes examination malpractices in secondary schools, in junior secondary schools, it has to do with the family. The children don't go and bribe WAEC student, police, other things. It's the parents. And I think that we have not really looked at the family. And it's important as a nation and as a people for us to look at how we are raising our children in the family. Then comes, of course, the area where, at least by God's grace, I have authority to speak there, because in education. Because currently, I'm involved in education from KG to awarding PhD. So at all levels, we have probably the most modern primary school in Ghana. All our classrooms have modern TVs and everything else in Shiromwasio. And we have 450 students. We had to close the doors last year because there were too many people who want to come in, even from the villages. And today, I think that the most important outside the family, which you don't have control much because it has to be on individual basis. As soon as the state, like the communists, try to control families, you are in a worse situation, is the school system. I believe that's where morality, patriotism, nationalism, attitude towards work, and honesty must start. The reason why, after being a rector, vice chancellor, last year I started a primary school is really to see, and I love it when I go and sit with my KG1 primary people and they call me grandpa. And sometimes when we are talking serious with them, say, Grandpa, did you bring chocolate?
Z 101.9 FM.
We have a system because we have to go back to this basic training. And in this regard, and I'm talking as a Christian, I think that the churches must insist that their schools be given to them and not every Tom, Dick, and Harry in the ministries going a Presbyterian school and you go and someone teaching there is either, excuse me to say, drunk or for a different faith and teaching, even want to teach homosexuality and other things. I think the churches must insist that they want to be involved in the education of our children at the basic level.
The churches don't make the whole of Ghana.
No, because we have the Muslims also have their child. In the basic level, religious education is important. And nobody is preventing the Muslims and the atheists. But I think that the Christians have a great responsibility in bringing up children in the fear and instruction of the Lord. At the secondary school level, it's almost a tragedy. What is going on at the secondary school level, in the public schools, is in particular, it's awesome. occultism, sexual immorality, drugs, and everything else. And in fact, I nearly broke down weeping, where in one of our elite secondary schools, those who are saying that they are going for mass quiz. One Christian young person, because he's supposed to be clean and sane, people went and accosted him and were actually opening his mouth to pour in cocaine. So because when it gets into him once, he will be addicted.
Then he will be sane, in quote.
Yes. So thank God he was saved. And I'm not talking about I see. This is the type of thing going on. And in Ghana Christian International School, where we have about, 1,000, getting to 2,000 secondary school students, where we see the challenges of these young people, some of them, their background, the family, and the challenge in really bringing them up in the fear and instruction of the Lord, so that they will be academically. I believe that you can't run a school and say that, we are moral. You must be academically on top. That's our aim. But they must be moral. They must think not only about themselves, their relationship with people. And I think that, honestly, though I'm a professor, it is at the basic school that I'm most concerned, primary and secondary. Because when we get it right there, it's almost easier at the university. Pareto principle, only about 20% will change when they go to university, whereas you can get about 80% transformation at the pre-university level.
Z 101.9 FM.
Stephen Adai says in the studios of Z 101.9 FM, 33 minutes gone past the hour of 10. You can follow us on WhatsApp 0544321019. And if you want to join the conversation, you can call 030-395-6641. You want to send us your contribution to the discussion. If you agree or disagree, you want a comment, whatever it is that you want to add up to the conversation, join us on Instagram, on Facebook, on X through ZFMGH. And if you're on TikTok, on YouTube, it's Z Multimedia. The discussions today is about building a progressive nation, what to do and what not to do. My two professors seem to have agreed at least on 4 singular points. There are many more that we'll probably be talking about, but it looks like for part 1, which will be just for today, the 8th of November 2025, we'll be looking at the factors in rebuilding or reshaping this nation, looking at the individual level. Let's look at the family. Leadership sounds quite critical and key here. And then, last but not least, we're talking about education. Part 2 will be veering into other spheres. Prof, 2 things seems to stand out here, even though you both agree on all 4, the individual, the family, but the issue about leadership and education. I don't know which one you choose first. If you allowed me, I'd look at leadership and then we'll come back to the educational systems that we are building, but feel free, go whichever way you want to go. But talk to us about what leadership will do to a progressive nation and what education will multiply at.
Well, leadership is everything. You're talking to somebody who had his master's and PhD in leadership studies. And leadership is too important to be left with leaders alone. We need people because 80% of leadership is followership.
Do you want to repeat that?
Yes.
Do not leave leadership to leaders alone.
Leadership is too important to be left with leaders alone.
Wow.
Very, very important.
101.9 FM.
They talk in leadership. John Maxwell has been talking about this. If you're a leader, most of the things that come to you are filtered. There are a lot of people who surround themselves with our leaders here who even block, wisdom from reaching our leaders. So leadership is too important to be left with leaders alone. Then we go to Socratic masm. Socrates talked about his masm of knowing thyself. Unfortunately, most leaders don't know themselves. And we have a lot of square pegs in round holes in Africa. A lot of square pegs in round holes in Africa where individuals think that, hey, if you appoint me to any position, that I will perform. So look at our political leadership and look at many people who are there, square pegs in round holes. Because here we assume that if you get somebody to, let's say, Ministry of Technology, we have technocrats who are going to work for the person. But that person should have that knowledge, skill set in that area. It is lacking in Africa. In the advanced world, you should be somebody who has achieved a lot like Prof. Adair, who will be given education to take care of. Because you are coming in with tons and plethora of knowledge. Here we have a lot of individuals in leadership positions who don't even have knowledge about the ministry and the department, the agencies that is going on. Have you listened recently to the PAC, the Public Account Committee, and see the way people talk, and you ask yourself, how did they get all these positions? So we have a situation in Houston, we have a problem. The other thing is, so if you're a leader, you have to know yourself, what you can handle, what you cannot handle, when to cry, when to smile. All these things you have to know thyself. And most leaders in Africa don't know themselves. The people rather push that, oh, you can do it, you can do it. And you will never see somebody say, no, I can't do it. There's somebody who is more qualified. So let that person do it. We don't look at it that way. Leadership started when the Greek would go and pick somebody and say that you are a wise person, you have, you tell the truth, you're a moral person, you have integrity. We want you to lead us.
But won't that be contradicting, oneself? The person sits there. Everybody thinks that he's qualified. He doesn't think that I am qualified. So the people come and say that we think that you can do it.
So
and then when they get him in there,
leadership
gets
is
into
common
trouble.
even in the animal world. The dancing bee is the leader among the bees. When you see the bees making honey, the one that can dance well is their leader. The wise elephant. When the ants are moving, there's a leader there. When the chimpanzees are there, the one at the top who create an alarm that somebody is coming is a leader. So God made leadership everywhere.
Absolutely, I don't disagree with that. But the point I'm making here, because we have had experiences where the people see somebody and say, yeah, we think that is the guy. Let him go sit there. He goes sit there, and then the other people come and say, but we put you there.
Exactly.
And you want to do what we tell you. Where is the contradiction in this?
A question whether the people put them there because they think he's a leader. I can tell you that the majority of political leaders were not put there because the people think that they had leadership qualities. They bought their way.
Exactly.
For example, I go to the villages quite often. During most of the parties, there are maybe about 500 people who select the person who is going to be their MP, for example. Those are, and if you go and you look at the profile of those, this must mean they have been selected for certain purpose. And by 2,000 each, so you have 1 million, they will vote you. Let me give you a very interesting example. My area is the Asokwa constituency.
Yes.
When His Excellency the President or whoever was advised him elected somebody to go and be the district chief executive officer, it had to be confirmed. He was overwhelmingly rejected by the people.
And the reason?
About 70%. I don't know their reason. But then the second round,
he paid his way through.
He paid his way
members,
through.
yes.
Maybe between 5,000 and 10,000. Yes. And the guy, being a teacher, couldn't have had the money.
So the people
the sponsors
made this guy, isn't it?
No, wait a minute. These are, you're talking about 40 or 50 people. Not the people, not the, so they got whatever they want. I hear there were macho people standing in front. They say that now you go in there after what we have done and come out not voting him. This time, 100% in support, 100% from over about 80% rejection to 100% rejection.
It's money.
Now, this is where, and someone was telling me, we should let the people elect their own DCs.
Leaders, yes.
I don't think that the politicians are going to yield to it. Why? Because that is allowed them to have a democratic dictatorship. So they are not going to allow for that because both of them have always promised that there will be an election. So I think that it is when we have a leader at the top who, like Gorbachev, even within the communist system, decided that he would do something differently, come what may. Of course, he paid a price for it. And or Deng Xiaoping, who in China says that I'm going to do something different, and of course has a very small chance you could fail, or Singapore's leadership. So I think that at this moment, I'm not so much, I wish we have gotten the leadership at the institutional level, but the apex political leadership.
It's quite critical.
It's where the critical is. And then I agree that I think there must be more Ghanaian voices which will speak to leadership. And then the masses may probably change their minds as to, if they don't do this, we won't elect you.
We will not elect you. And Prof. Enoch Kupukwentri, I come back to you. Sorry that I had to cut in there.
No, that's
but
fine.
very critical. You see, we're
very.
looking at, is it about the individual with the vision or about the people saying that we think that he's got the vision? But that's where the challenge is, whether the people are sincerely, are morally, are intuitively believing that yes, this is the anointed. You know, the Bible says that when Jesus Christ was baptized, you know, and the dove descended upon him, the voice came and said that, well, this is my son in whom I am well pleased. So here we've got, you know, we've got into the point where we think that it is the people. And I agree with you when you say that, yes, let's not leave leadership to just the leaders. But here are the people who want you there because of what we are going to get. So where is the dichotomy? Where is the contrast? And which way do we go?
So there's a crossroad here. And that is why last year I published a good Ghana's Grassroots Democracy. You remember Kama Makado chaired my book launch. And he talked about the haircut that he received. That has got most of his people dead. And we became good friends until he passed away. And we all went to funeral at Sushen, where he comes from.
Not too far from you.
Yes, not too far from me. But we shared a lot of thoughts. And I know what he went through from the Yoko. After the book launch, they called him that, why is he embarrassing the government? How much is his money? As to whether they paid him or not, I don't know before he passed away. But if you look at our grassroots democracy and the way it is designed, Prof hinted on some of those areas. You have the delegates album. I have contested for election before, but most people don't know, because I wanted to see it and write about them. I don't write. This is my 9th book. And I write by immersing myself in the society, and then, so I write authoritative book. Now, one of my books, which are textbook in US, is 7 Leadership. The leaders among us, this is why. And then one was, my first leadership book was Leadership is Concept Heavy. So when you type, country on Amazon, you see a lot of the books that I've written. I wrote about mission, vision, and virtues of organization. They bought it from me and made it a textbook. I don't even have a copy. So it's kind of interesting the way things unfold here. But you have delegates at my constituency in New Jersey North. You had about, out of 1,200, only about 5 were graduates. So there was a man who was 60-year-old, and he is a youth organizer. And then the son, who is 22, is the chairman of that, branch. So there's a lot of situation. If you have wedge sellers and farmers, and these are all smart people, because if they were not smart, they will not go pick a form and become a delegate. But I asked the question, where are the doctors and the nurses and the teachers? Where are they? They are not found in the grassroots democracy.
They're busy in the theaters and making sure that we're all living fine
seller,
and teaching your children and all that.
If I'm a wedge seller, you can convince me easily with 50 Ghana or 100 Ghana, because open
But you're not saying that the watches sellers also are
they are smart,
strategic and smart.
They are smart, but I'm saying that people can convince them with money easily, because when I contested, said we need money.
But Prof, you'll be shocked the level at which professors of your level can also, we have to conduct a bit of a research so we can speak to this authoritatively.
The leadership piece, because Prof, I've talked about the education piece, I wanted to talk about the legal piece. Laws are very important in every country. If you come to America or Europe, I've been a guest lecturer in many European countries. When you go there and you are supposed to know the right thing and you don't do it, if you are a governor, and you are caught for overspeeding, it is 40 miles an hour here, you are going 60, and a police officer stops you and realizes that you are a governor, instead of you paying $400 or $300 for a fine, you will pay $1,500. So you will not even dare tell the person I'm a governor. You hide it because the law punishes those who are supposed to know the best. The law works, and we need our laws to work. Here we have nice laws, but they don't work. And leaders should model the way. They should make sure that the law, they are making sure the law works so that others will follow. Because if you don't model the way as a leader, then others will not do that. Somebody is apprehended for doing a wrong thing and calls a leader and said, this is my uncle, this is my father. And once you make a call to the police officer, they don't have a choice but to release that person. That shouldn't happen. In our education, we have the protocol system, and I think that is wrong. Somebody has sat down to learn so hard to get aggregate 6 or 7. Yes. Somebody get 35 and go to the same school with that person. And somebody also had 9 but could not get in there. Exactly. So what is the protocol system about?
Is it not to ensure that we are getting
it gives advantages to those who are lazy and who have connections? So those of us who don't have an uncle or a father or any family member who is in influential position to help us, what do we do?
So, Prof, in effect, you're saying that we should only allow those who make their single grades and the rest.
Yes, the fairness in the system. So, even in politics, they will ask you.
Won't that be creating a
No. In politics, they will be asking you, who do you align with? Who do you align with? Who is your godfather?
Let me come
see,
in here.
so if you are not aligned with anybody, if you don't have a godfather, does it mean you can't go far in politics?
When I play the devil's advocate, then your papa comes in and wants to make a contribution. It's exactly 48 minutes gone past the hour of 10, and this is Z.
My father will do the same thing, so let me come in.
Focus. Papa, you have the floor.
Okay. Here, let the age speak. According to Job. But on a more serious note, when I was a PhD student in Sydney, our Ghana ambassador was Rear Admiral Jan of blessed memory, one of the best gentlemen I knew of, and he became a personal friend when we all returned to Ghana. And we were talking about meritocracy, this, and I said, we came to a conclusion that, no, there's a way. Almost every village school, the first, second, third children are of the same capacity, intelligence, like anybody else, whether he went to Morning Star or Christ the King. We can have a system.
Or Tepa Roman Catholic Primary,
yes,
where I went.
Yes, but Tepa is almost a regional capital.
Those days.
Yes.
Now you're crooked to
So I said that government scholarships should not be given to how many people got the first top A's. Let's say that the government scholarship will be given to every top 3 students from every village school, every school in the country. They go to the Achimotes, they go to the Fancy Payment, they go to the Wegehes. In other words, we must look at our system and how to achieve excellence, academic excellence with equity. And we can do it. But one of the things about Ghana is that we, let me say, uncharitably, I was advisor to the Council of State, economic advisor under Liman, and I did the economic profile. And one of the statements which the members, and the average age was 65, and I was, a young man in my early 30s. So I remember Kwakupon would say, "Hey, Stephen, did you learn Latin?" I says, "No." He said, "That's why you've split your infinities." So that was the type of joke that they would talk to me about it. And I said that Ghana is a country without brain. And then the old people were shocked. The 32-year-old says that Ghana, with all the power and Professor Kwakupon. And I says, no, I'm not talking about individual brains, but whereby you harness for every sector the best brains to find solutions to. But our politicians don't like that one. Because when you come to education, for goodness sake, I can, from both devices, you can get about 10 people whose job is thinking about education and offering the best advice. We will have an unparalleled one in health and everything else. But in Ghana, your knowledge doesn't count. It's your party color. Yes. that when they had the education forum in the whole, I was going to our school and I met somebody at Melcom in Frafraha. I said, "Oh, Prof, are you coming from the education forum?" I said, "No, I didn't actually know the date, and then I invited." So when it comes to secondary school education, my older brother, Professor Ade Mensah, is one of the topmost. He's a chemist who knows about high school education, and yet the brains are. And I told them, that's what I mean. We are not harnessing our brain power. We are only concerned about, is he with us? When we're campaigning, how many people are going to campaign for NPP or NDC? Give or take 250,000. We have 34 million Ghanaians. And please, God has not made the wisdom to be in the 250 NDC, 25,000 or so, or 250,000 NDC and MPP. So, but again, it boils down to leadership.
Prof, are you saying that as a party in power, we should go and get the brains in our position to come and build?
The question is this: if you are a party in power, you are better off to use the best brains in the country so that you become more successful. But even, for me, the painful part of it is that even if you exclude, say, well-known NPP and well-known NDC, there are about 75% of Ghanaians in every field who don't belong to these colors. But they are saying that these 75, we will not even use your brain. Why? Because you haven't worn our party color. You don't have a party card.
That for me sounds quite significant here.
Right.
That you still have quite a sizable number of professionals who are well versed in their various professional areas, and yet we will not use them because they have not dressed in our jerseys.
Yes.
This is what you're saying.
Yes. Whilst when you become a head of state, everybody is your tool, so to speak, in not a negative sense.
Father of the nation. You become the father.
Mahama is not NDC president. He is the president of Ghana. And he must use all the best brains in the country, whether in education, in the fight against galamsey, or whatever it is. Ghanaians will have the solution. And that is, and it will be to your credit, because it will be Mahama who will be. But of course, it's Mahama's group or Kufuor's group, and we are the sufferers as a nation because we have no national vision and we are not using our best brains in every sector.
I love the sporting colors. Obviously started from Kumasi, Asante, Kodoko, Kumapima, Pimbeba. And when you travel all the way to Accra, then you have the Hasiphobia boys are good. If you don't wear the rainbow colors, then we will not make sure that, we will always make sure that you are not part of us. But the point being made today is that we need to start thinking about the Ghana national team, where irrespective of your colors, whether of the rainbow or of the all reds, we are singing to a national hymn book. It looks like part 2 of building a progressive nation. What to do and what not to do is what will come next, because of the provocative statements and theories that have been made today by the two distinguished professors. We are not gone yet. We'll be right back to wrap up. And this is Focus. This is where you have national discussions. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, on ZFMGH, and on TikTok and YouTube is Z Multimedia. If you want to send us a comment on WhatsApp, it's 0544321019. And if you want to join the conversation, call us on 030-395-6641. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Z 101.9 FM.
Dream home, No interest for 2 years. Are you ready to step into your dream home? With Lakeside Estates' exclusive offer, you can own your own home in just 2 years with no interest repayment. This offers you affordable payments, flexible home purchase plan, quality homes, and lifestyle choice. Choose from a variety of beautiful homes in any of Lakeside Hills clusters. Your future awaits you. Imagine living in a home you love with the freedom to invest in your dreams without the burden of interest. As your CIMG Real Estate Company of the Year for the 4th time, we offer you hassle-free home acquisition. Call us today on 020-477-5040 or 020-141-8622. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Call us now to learn more and schedule a tour for our available homes. T&C Supply. Make your dream a reality. Lakeside Estate. Quality homes for all.
All right, you're back on focus. You're back on focus. This is Z 101.9. It's about 4 minutes to the top of the hour, where we'll be bringing the conversations to a close on a progressive nation. What to do and what not to do. Today, at least, the two distinguished professors have agreed that there are various levels that we can look at. You have the individual level. The people of Ghana must begin to think Ghana, because this is the only nation that we have. It's not about what comes to you. If we think Ghana, what comes out of our productive process is shared, and your part, your bit, your portion will never be taken away from you. What is the family doing? That's the second point that we're looking at. Is there a family that's still thinking about the values, how to build the morality of the children that we're bringing up, who will eventually end up in society? Well, good people out there, families listening to Z101.9 FM, you want to begin thinking about how we can build this progressive nation. But on those two key topics, which we'll be wrapping up on, leadership and education, our distinguished professors will be taking their last bite. And I'll start with Professor Enoch Opoku Entry.
The Bible says that for lack of knowledge, people perish. So knowledge is really key in developing any nation. We are not a country that reads. We are not a country that buys books. We are also not a country that believes in research. We believe in prophecies and research. Why, I don't know. But we should begin to...
You mean we don't have prophecies in the Bible? And
we have prophecies in the Bible, but we live in a modern world that we should also match research findings, because that are very important.
If we don't marry them, then we're in trouble.
A lot of scientific research that we are doing in Africa, these Chinese people and foreigners are coming in to pick our dissertations, and they are implementing them for us as consultants. But we have a lot of individuals doing this, and we don't even cherish knowledge from our own. How many of our own books, professors' books, that we even use? I see a lot of books being used here are foreign books. But the foreigner who writes about us will not know the culture and the nitty-gritties of what we do here. For example, if you go to the market, I see the market women, oh, Bemena, oh, Nana, it is saying, or Busian 40 saying, the way they pamper you before you even buy for them. The Western world is not like that. It's, have you found anything you want? You say, okay, and you buy it. So our culture here, some of them are beautiful, and we should capture them in the way we write. So I will emphasize that we have to use our own books, which is very important. The other thing is listening. We need to begin to listen to our children, to the youth. They are going through a lot. Some of them are depressed. Some of them are going through a lot that parents will have to listen to them. We also have to have empathy. Empathy is lacking in leadership here. The German word for empathy is walking into the shoes of somebody. Sometimes you have to know that we can always agree to disagree agreeably. And what people are going through, you have no idea. So empathy is very important. Awareness is also one of the things that are lacking in Africa, where the leaders are not aware of the trotro affairs. The leaders are not aware of the cytoscopy, what is going on there. The leaders don't take, public toilet and other things that the ordinary person uses. We don't use it. So you are not aware of the situation that they are going through, about the price of everything. So awareness is also, and then healing. We need to heal. We've been so polarized politically. We've been so polarized tribally that we need to heal. If you are an Ewe or an Asante, so what? We are all Ghanaians.
We are all Ghanaians. So says the good professor Enoch Opoku Mchi. Let's build the culture. Let's do what is proper, and let's be empathetic towards each other and create the awareness. Professor Stephen Adai will end the session for us this morning.
Well, first of all, I think that our leaders, and here I'm talking about the topmost political leaders, must do us a favor. The polarization is too much, and that we should try to build a vision, a simple vision of the Ghana we want. Secondly, despite the fact of all the weaknesses of a champion, there was one thing they did. There were certain, I've forgotten the details, about 4 or so values which were on signboards everywhere. The values that define Ghana Ba. At this moment, whether we like it or not, Ghana Ba is one who has stolen some money, is smart enough, rides in a big car and that. No, what is the prototypical Ghanaian we want? And then we should project those values and live it as example. I also believe that we should look at our basic education again, the curricula. Most of the things they are talking about, whether it should be Tree or Dagmani in the first 3 years, yes. But anyway, when he goes to job, his Dagmani or his Tree will not find him job. So the economic aspect and the reality, you are just joking. Every parent now would like their child to speak English because that is what will get them job. Of course, I believe that at that age, a child can learn 3 languages. Your language, your English, and even French. However, this is the age of values. I believe that we must limit greatly the number of subjects we teach in the primary school currently. They just need how to read, mathematics, and then an inquiry spirit. And most of the time, socialize them, give them values and ethics. And if we do that, we will find that actually we are laying foundations. And my younger colleague said that, as to the law, actually at this moment, that's my biggest problem. Our laws don't work because those who are leading don't obey it. But the worst part, the politicians try to even now influence the judiciary, so that if we are not careful, we'll get to a point whereby even the judiciary outcomes are predictable in the wrong sense as to whether you are a politician or you are rich. If we get that one, then our society is finished.
Z 101.9
That is where
FM.
part 1 of building a progressive nation, what to do and what not to do, ends on the show. And this has been Focus. It has been on 101.9 FM, where lifestyle, leisure, and business also contributing to building the nation Ghana that we all want, will say. Our 2 distinguished professors have been educating us today on what to do. Balancing the act is quite fundamental. Of course, we need to build that culture that will drive us into the future. We need to listen and listen pretty well. Let us be empathetic. Let us be empathetic. And let's be aware of our environment. The old buddy says that the values which we will project and live are fundamental to getting what building that progressive nation will be. Let's balance it at the end of the day with the laws that we set for ourselves. Once we kill the laws, we kill ourselves as a nation. And this is where we draw the curtains down on today's discussion. You want to stick and stay with Z 101.9 because up next is the sports rally. But God willing, exactly 1 week today at 9 a.m., part 2 is what we'll be bringing your way. Thank you very much, Professor Stephen Adai, our very distinguished Professor of Governance and Leadership. And thank you very much, Professor Enoch Opoku Entry, who is also a leadership and policy expert and analyst. It's been a wonderful discussion today, and hopefully we'll be right back to continue with the discussion. This has been Nana Safo, wishing you a very good bye on this Saturday morning. Bye, and stay with us on 101.9.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.